So Michael,
Yes, sir.
I have my own cheat sheet.
Mm-hmm.
You are honestly the person that taught me what a leading man was.
Ooh.
It's
Okay.
true.
All right.
From our days in 2003 when you came down to the University of Miami.
That's right.
He directed me in Violet.
Yes, I did.
And so I started to see, okay, this is something I could fashion myself after in the business. So thank you for that.
Well, you're very welcome.
Everyone that knows you in New York
Mhm.
calls you inspirational.
Oh, wow.
Or at least the people that have talked to me.
Okay.
The three that I've talked to.
Okay.
They call you
Wow,
inspirational,
that's cool.
encouraging,
Okay.
and uplifting.
Okay.
Right?
Uh-huh.
Which is why I think that your students say you make a good teacher.
Okay.
But if you were to open your own university
Mm-hmm.
today
Yes.
for musical theater artists,
Yes.
what would you include in the curriculum
Mm.
that is not in there right now?
That's easy. That's an easy answer.
Mm.
Diversity, equity, inclusion, and belonging training.
Mm.
I think that it's I've been doing a lot of that work and looking at how that affects artistic spaces. As artists, I feel like it's our responsibility, our duty, and has always been since the beginning of time, to challenge society, to hold the mirror up to society, to question things through our work. And we're living in a time now that's so incredibly fractured that in some artistic spaces we are now taking on what society does
Mhm.
and the rules of society as opposed to leading society. And so I feel like any student that leaves a university and artistic training space, professional training, and has the same thoughts, feelings, beliefs about life and experience that they had when they came in, then we haven't done our job. Because how can you step into the lives of characters with any empathy,
Right.
with any understanding of something other than yourself if you yourself have not transformed? And I feel like diversity, equity, inclusion, belonging training in the artistic space demands the same things of us that our craft demand of us. It demands honesty, it demands vulnerability, it demands risk taking.
Yeah.
It demands being exposed, but also questioning who we are. We can never go to a character and know everything about it before we started. We have to go with questions, with our life experiences, what we know, but always open and available to what we don't know.
Right.
Always open and available to other people in the room and the other energies in the room. And I feel like that doesn't happen very often.
When you talk about, goodness, belonging,
Yes.
how, because that's something that I am like really passionate about
Yes.
in terms of community,
Yes.
finding your community and people
Yes.
that think like you.
Yes.
How can, in a university setting,
Yes.
as I go through your syllabus now,
Oh, God. Mhm.
how do we implement the need to, or the importance of finding our community?
Okay.
You know what I mean? Like,
Yeah.
that's something that's so important. As artists, we just kind of go out like, okay, we're gonna audition.
Mhm.
But finding people who think like you, who value the same things that you do,
Mhm.
I feel like that's so important.
Yeah. Well, it depends on what it is. I mean, we have to be in spaces with people who don't think and feel and believe like us, but I think what you're
Right.
meaning is the core values of certain types of living lives in certain ways.
Yeah.
Open, passion,
Yeah, yeah,
empathy, support, mentorship, caring, those kinds of like-minded people.
Yes.
The thing about belonging and why that got added to the list of things that we talk about when we talk about diversity is because so often we bring people, diverse groups into a space, but then we don't offer support systems for them once they're there. So you can tick off your box and say, oh, well, I've got this person and this person, and then they're there and there's nobody that looks like them on the faculty. There's nobody there. You're not doing any curriculum or any kind of repertoire that allows them to be seen or any of that. So check marks. And so I think that next step has to be there. Who are the faces in the room? What is the material that's being done? How is it that we can celebrate the lives of all people in the room?
Right.
I think there's a sociologist, DeAngelis, I think her name is, and she talks about growing up in an all-white environment and never once in growing up did she ever feel or was ever conveyed to her that there was a profound sense of loss because she did not get to know anything other than her own experience. And so I feel like in our artistic spaces, we have to get to know what other people are like and their experiences, because as artists, we have to be open and available to that. But in order to do that, like when you say like-minded people, at least the way I interpret that, it means you have to be in a room where there's trust. You have to be in a room where there's bravery. You have to be in a room where there's respect. Not just respect for what you know, but for respect for what other people know. We don't always have to agree, but we have to be able to come to a common place of understanding. Right? And creating spaces like that has to be as important as the actual training of learning how to act, learning how to sing, learning how to dance, the actual disciplines, the technical disciplines. That also has to be a part of it. And that's the thing that I try, at least attempt to incorporate into the way that I teach, which is seeing each individual person and really trying to go, okay, I see you. I'm gonna give you this assignment because you're trying to hide something. I want to see you bring that in an environment. And what I hope that my students understand, or hope that they believe, is that yes, we're in a room together and I am in it with you. So I'm going to give you 150%, and I'm not going to take anything less than 150% from you. And we're going to risk all. We're going to fail miserably, and we're going to lift each other up again. So that's what I try to do while I'm still learning. I'm still learning, craft and how to be a teacher and how to teach and all of those things. But I learn a lot from going into a room, being as prepared as possible, just like we do as actors, and then being able to still have in the space the question, I don't know.
If I could sign up for that university, I'm in.
Seriously. Amen. Yes.
Oh, amen to all of that. I've got 4 more questions for you. The performing arts is just hard to break into.
Yes.
It's hard to stay into.
Yes.
But you've been fluid with it. On and off Broadway, founder of the Broadway Inspirational Voices. We'll talk a little bit more about that. You're a teacher at NYU, School of the Arts. What do you think? I feel like you're the most qualified person to answer this question. What do you think is the key to longevity in entertainment?
Well, I can only speak for myself.
Sure. Yeah.
Who I was, well, there's a couple things. Who I am is not determined by, one, who gives or doesn't give me a job, or what I do. I firmly believe, and granted, some of this is I have to come to my own place in some of these things, but I grew up in a very religious family. My grandfather was a minister. My stepfather, I spent every day in church. Prayer meeting, Bible study, choir rehearsal. So I was always within a spiritual place. And one of the things, there are many problems with organized religion, but one of the things that it taught me was that I am put on this earth to do something that nobody else can do. And that as long as I work hard and I am prepared and I stay present, because there is a purpose for my life, those things will unfold the way they're supposed to. And if I have done the work, I can step into those spaces. That does not mean that everything I have wanted to get, I have gotten.
Right. Whoa.
But it does mean that ultimately the things that have happened have been for my good, in terms of I can look back and go, oh, that was a horrible experience. But if I hadn't had that experience, I wouldn't know what this is, right? So that part of believing in a purpose of my life, and not in an egotistical way, but knowing that each of us is here for a specific purpose.
Right.
And mine just happens to be this. Did I think I was going to be a teacher 10 years ago? No. But did I think that I would stay an actor 8 shows a week for my whole life? I knew that wasn't going to happen. So it was being open and available to all of the things that have happened, that continue to happen in my life. So that's one part of it.
I see.
Go ahead.
In terms of just the idea of purpose.
Yes.
You said you grew up in a religious household. Yeah. So I want to talk a little bit about Broadway Inspirational Voices. When you attend one of those concerts, I know when I do, and everyone that I talk to, you are left you leave a lot higher than when you came in. You're more grounded, and I think whether you call it chi, spirit, soul,
right.
whatever it is, we get filled from going to those concerts. So, and especially as artists, we walk around depleted because we have to be emotionally available and tough as nails at the same time. So, on the spiritual note, I wondered if you talk about the importance of something that grounds you daily, or just as artists, a practice. You know, just the importance of that in art.
Well, I'm not a person that can meditate, because the minute I get up, my brain is going with the 10 things I have to do. 10,000 things these days, but I'm blessed. I think that to have the clarity of knowing that this is what I need to do in order to do X, Y, Z, I think that you have to have something. For me, it's my connection to something greater than myself. And the way that manifests itself is in prayer for me. But I, once again, being who I am, had to find my own path to my own spiritual connection. For some, like I said, it may be meditation. Another part of what I believe helps me to ground me is mentorship. I was brought up in an environment where I was a part of the first family of the church, so it was service, how you give back, how you continue to foster the next generation of artists is essential to me, because that fills me up. You're exactly right. We have to be ready to give it all, right? And be bare, open our souls, but still walk down the streets of New York and not be a crazy person. Right? So it requires something of us that most other occupations do not require. It is a skill. It is a skill to be open and a skill to then be able to protect, right? So for me, Broadway Inspirational Voices didn't start off that way. Well, it did. That's a lie. It did start off that way. It was 1994. It was the height of the AIDS epidemic in this city, all over the world. I was watching friends of mine who I'd done Broadway shows with, who were healthy young men 1 minute, and the next day they were dead, or on oxygen tanks, going from 100 and some odd pounds to 90 pounds. And Broadway, the thing about what we do as artists is we know what it is to band together. And Broadway Cares was born out of that. Equity Fights AIDS was born out of that, and then they combined together. And we were doing cabarets and concerts and fundraisers to support it. But in 1994, I was like, I know what's gotten me through has been this music, has been gospel music. There's something that is in the marrow of that music that goes all the way back to a group of people who had nothing, who had their identity, their humanity stripped from them, and yet they found a song, and yet they found a way to voice their sorrow, their pain, their hope for something better. And out of that was born gospel music. That's the legacy, right? And I knew if I could bring that music to the theater community at a time when we felt rudderless, like we were just kind of doing it, just trying to get through, that it might be something for somebody else. And that was separate from religious doctrine, separate from ideology, separate from organized religion. And for me, part of that was also that it be a diverse group of people to show that this music was available to everyone.
I just want to say that's a big part of what Broadway Inspirational Voices is. Back in 94.
25 years this year.
When that, come on, quarter century.
I was too.
But before all of this inclusion and before all that talk was,
it was in the
marrow of it.
The marrow of what I wanted to do. I knew what this music meant to me, but it didn't mean that it was only available to people of color, African American experience. So that first group, in fact, because it's our 25th anniversary, I've been reaching out to the original 12 and asking them to create videos for me, and we're gonna have a gala next year in February, and I want them all to be there. But it was like Alice Ripley was in that first year, Adrian Lennox,
oh my God,
Billy Porter, Ty Taylor, Sharon Leal. I mean, it was
legends.
An amazing group of 12 people, and we didn't know what we had, but the response in that church that Broadway Cares had sponsored this event was magic, and because we have continued to try to have that every year, that people say, come see this concert. People are like, I don't want to go to that religious thing. I don't want, because so many people have been bruised.
You would be missing out.
Right?
But yes.
And then they come and they go, oh, that's not what this is at all. The music is through that, but the spirit and the energy of the space is all about inclusion. It's all about how can I, as a person who loves this music, create a program that will leave people feeling like they can get through the rest of the week.
My God.
Right?
Yeah.
So that's what my intention is behind it.
I feel like that intention from when you started in 94 is crystal clear now in 2019, and I would say the more needed than ever.
Yeah.
Thank you for that. So now, I got 2 more questions for you.
Okay.
So you graduate with a performing arts degree.
Yes.
You come to New York City.
Yes.
You're excited. You're in a room with 200 people sometimes, thinking about paying back student loans. Rent. Sally Mae comes knocking at the door.
I can't wait. When I sent that last check, I was like, Sally Mae.
I bet you wrote a song on that day.
I sure did. She came back and said, oh, but there's interest here. I said, okay, is this it? Because I'm not sending no more checks. That was a happy day.
So Sally Mae's knocking.
Yes.
You're trying to get into a room, trying to focus on this. So this is 30 seconds before you walk into an audition room. How can we forget all that, the loans, the odds against us, and focus and deliver in the 60 seconds that we have?
I think it's a skill. It's the same skill we need to go on stage 8 times a week. Is that we are in service to something.
Okay.
So no one really cares if your dog died or if your relationship ended. When you walk on stage, they're here to see you tell that story. And for me, it's the same thing when I walk into an audition. I have prepared. I am coming in the room, not necessarily with the idea, I got to get this job, which is ultimately that's the goal. Sure. But it is, I have prepared, and now I get to do the thing that I say I love to do. And now I'm going to come up in this room, prepared, bring my joy, bring who I am as a person, which includes my joy, so I am the most joyful expression of who I am in that room, and then transform the room. You transform the room through your storytelling and the living of the experience that you're singing or that you're speaking, right? And you leave that room and you leave it there. You have no control over whether or not you get that job. But what you do have control over is how you prepare, the joy you bring in the room, and how you transform the room. I always tell my students, make them not give you that job.
I love that. I love that.
Because you have gone in the room, and we call it, you have set it on fire. And not in a way of like, I'm going to go in here and show them. But your work is so specific and so deep and so alive and so available to the moment. So it's not like I'm going to do what I practiced a week ago or this morning, but I have that as my foundation. But my foundation is a trampoline. Instead of it being something that sinks me into the ground and this is the only way to do it, it's a thing that I go, whoo, and I fly. And whatever's happening in that room, whatever energy is in that room, I take that in, and it might change how I do something that day. But I'm so in it that I have space for that. You know what I mean?
Present.
Yes.
I mean, it's a word that we use a lot, but like being present in that moment. I feel like this is the number one question that kids coming out of school ask is, how do I separate myself? And it's like not a matter of separating yourself as to being prepared but like living in that moment, bringing the joy and bringing the gratitude of, hey, this is an opportunity for you to perform.
Yes.
Oh my God.
But also it's your version of. So there is no separation in terms of, I'm going to take myself out of it. No. It's like, what makes your Curly in Oklahoma different from this person's Curly? Because you have a life experience and imagination that is uniquely yours that you can now infuse into that character, right? So that a director goes, that's what I have in my head, that one, as opposed to the 500 other ones that they've seen. So it's never about separating. It's what parts of you are going to serve the storytelling and what's written on paper.
Service.
Right.
Really believing in the service.
Yeah.
That's what we are as artists. We are serving.
Yes.
Wow.
It's
that's
hard.
That's a mindset shift, though.
Yeah, it is. It's hard. It's hard. The more I've been teaching, the more I realize how hard it is to grow up today. For young people and young artists coming into the business today, because they've grown up. I mean, you grew up in the pre-cell phone days, right? You grew up in the pre-social media days. So I think social media and the internet has robbed us of something as artists, because as an artist you need to have a process-driven mind, right?
Yes.
And what social media and the internet has robbed us of is you hit a button and the work is done for you. So when it comes time to understanding, oh, this doesn't happen right away, it takes process.
Right.
If you don't have those tools in your everyday life, then there's a sense of, why is this not happening now? Right? So not
100%.
trusting that there is a process to the work, process to the experience, process to the career, all of those things. Then you add to it, you've been raised in an environment that is, and everybody gets a prize, everybody gets an award.
Yeah.
There's no understanding. So then you don't have the tools when you don't get that job. When they don't want
You
you.
feel like something is wrong with you.
Yeah, you don't have the tools to cope with. You need some disappointments to understand how to toughen up and thicken your skin and go, okay, you know what, that wasn't for me, but I'm gonna keep on going. You know what I mean?
100%. That was not my job, right? But paying dues, understanding a process.
Yeah.
I think it's such a huge part of it.
Yeah, and do you know how many people have not gotten a job for 6 months later to a year later for a director to go, who was that person that came in here last year? I want to see them. And that got them their job from a year before. You know what I mean? So every opportunity you get in the room, you bring everything you have in the room in a joyful way.
Yes.
And an open way, and be malleable in that space. You know, because a lot of directors talk about, they're looking for people that they want to date, basically, because you're going to be in a room with them.
So in that way, it's like, I always think about like a puzzle piece. Like they are searching for you to be that. They're not against you.
Yes,
they
shifting
want
the
you.
mindset to, you need to be the answer to the problem, as opposed to, they don't want me when I go in the room.
Right.
Because if you think they don't want you, they're not going to want you.
People sense when you have joy and when you are ready to when you're trying to change the atmosphere. They can also smell, I think, victimhood. I mean, that's just real, right? They can smell when you're tiptoeing or when you're unsure or what your motives are.
Right.
And I think to spread joy, to change the room, to serve. I think those are that's so powerful.
Yeah. We're energy beings, so you know how many times have you been at a party or someone's house, someone walked in and you took an immediate dislike or like to them. So we are energy people, right? So if you come in the room with something that ain't feeling quite right,
right?
It don't matter how fierce you are when you come into the center of the room. Right? People, and just getting my students to understand that the audition begins way before you come into the room. Right? But when you walk in that door, they are making a decision about you from that moment. From the time you're actually sitting in the hall, because you better believe that monitor, and you out there acting a fool, when they're looking at all those pictures, and that monitor comes in and says, that one right there was a lot out there. They're not going to ask no questions. You're off the table. You know what I'm saying? So, it's like all of these things make a difference. And I think for the mentality today is, and for young artists sometimes, is that, it only matters what you do once you start singing. That is the end. You know what I mean? It's everything else that comes before that. How you approach it made
before you open your mouth.
Yes. It is. If they like your energy when you come in the room, it is yours to lose when you stand in the center. But if they don't like your energy, it doesn't matter what you do in the center of the room. And everything matters. How you talk to the accompanist matter. How you talk to the monitor matters. How much you're running your mouth in the hallway matters. All those things matter.
I feel like Tommy Kail, the director of Hamilton, says the exact same thing you're saying. I asked him one thing he said is, I'll take the heart over the talent every time. Every time.
Everyone will.
Far gone are the days when you weren't the only fierce one in the United States because you had something special about you.
No.
Kids, there are a lot of people that come to New York every couple of months.
Yes.
And it is about what you can bring to the experience.
Right, yeah. Jeff Calhoun told me when I was auditioning for Big River, he says, and he still does this, so y'all are going to get a little underground little note here. He walks the hallways during auditions to go to the bathroom and come back to see how people are in the hallway when they're not in the room. And I remember very clearly, there's not many things I remember in my old age, but I remember sitting outside that room and watching him go to the bathroom, come back, and I'm in my thing. But I remember him coming and kind of looking and then when he go in the room. People want to know what you're like when you're not on. right? Because everything matters. They need to know that when this show is in 10 out of 12s and things are not going well, are you going to be a person in the room who is bringing joy? Or are you going to be the person in the room that is the iceberg in the Titanic?
Right? You're bringing this down.
You bring us down.
2 months after opening.
Yes.
When the creative team's gone, they need to trust that you are going to be someone who's going to elevate the room.
Yes.
On the rainy, snowy day in January.
Yes.
Oh,
yes.
When
there's no light.
There's no light. Keep rolling. I just want to have one more question for you.
Is it on that thing?
No, this is just a
charge.
Yeah. How you doing? Your arms okay?
Yeah, I'm hanging.
Oh my gosh.
He does porta bra. He can hold it. Thing.
You good? Okay. So, one last question. You've been so generous. Do you have a scary audition or showcase story, or just a time where it was a lot of high pressure, and just a really scary moment?
Yes, there are many. I've been doing this for 100 years. There are many.
You've been doing it, so I want you to just take 5 seconds to think about it, and you got about 2-3 minutes, and really just walk us through it. Take us in the room, take us through the people, the characters, how you were feeling, what you were, just just to paint this picture, because I feel like this is people want to know that you went through this too.
Well, there's two. There's both of them are in the same show.
Oh, okay.
But one, it was different fear for a different reason. One was because it was overwhelming. The other was just, I didn't know if I was going to make it. But both of them had the equal amounts of fear. Because it was Rent. Both of them were Rent. One was the closing night that they were filming live on Broadway. And I woke up that morning after singing the whole week fine, reflux. Woke up and was warming up, and you know how you hit that ceiling, and you trying to. It's like if you take a nap between shows, and then you wake up and your voice is like an octave lower.
Very well.
So I was terrified, and then and that's when technique really comes into play. But also the mezzanine was filled with every person who had ever done the show on Broadway in the last, I don't know how many years. And then the ground floor had the original cast. And so we get to the part where it goes, it's over, right before I do the reprise. And I'm sitting under that parachute. And usually I'm under there and I'm doing my lines, but in between I'm like, trying to get this ready to do what I had to do.
Right.
And, but I was being present,
Come on.
which I could have been a little less present, I thought. But I was being present and realized as we threw the thing off and we're saying it's over, and I look at Adam and I say it's over, I'm really talking about a part of my life, that's something that's been a part of my life. This was 2008, and I first went on the stage in Rent in 1997. So to say it's over and be present it was like, oh God, right? Because now I'm emotional, and I'm so emotional to the point where, Haiti calls it tears in your throat, where if I open my mouth to sing, nothing's gonna come out but a yodel, right? And the reprise is every note from the lowest to the highest. So as I'm walking around and I'm getting the coat, I'm like trying to put this car in reverse, right? And then usually when I come to sing the song at the memorial service, which is the audience is there, it's dark. But because we were filming, there were cameras, so the lights were up.
Nowhere to hide.
Nowhere to run, nowhere to hide. So it literally was a moment of prayer. I was like, God, you're gonna have to get me through this. But what I do remember is that I could not let the emotion be the thing that was gonna drive me, or I would have failed miserably. I had to be technical, and I had to say, let me tell this story and let the emotion be underneath, but not be the thing that's driving the boat, or I won't make it. So I never really watch it. I've seen it a few times, and it's like, vocally, it's like, oh, it's okay. But I got through it, because if I had not been able to be at prayer and center myself, I would never have made it through. I would have never, and that would have been out there for the world to see forever and ever. I'm not, right?
I feel like that you just literally put it all in a bow.
Yeah.
You know, having the moment of prayer from whatever spirituality practice that you have of just being present and knowing that there's a purpose here, but also being in that moment and being prepared.
Yes.
The moment was not bigger than what you were prepared for.
No. That's what technique, I think the technique and the skill and the work that we do is so that we find that balance. We find that balance of living honestly and truthfully in that moment, but knowing that there's a story we have to tell, and technically you know where you have to go. So if I would decide to start at 10, when I needed the 10 at the end, I'd have a 2. So that's not going to serve me, and that's not going to serve the storytelling. So it's really, for me, it was, and there were many times, because how many times are we at 100% doing 8 shows a week? Then you add it to it being sick, or having bronchitis, or all of a sudden during the show, something happens or whatever, and you got to find a way to get through it. So it's really, for me, it has always been a combination of having a strong technique and being present and having prayer and being like, Lord, here we go. And I'm going to trust you and do what I know how to do, as opposed to living in a place of distrust and trying to force something somewhere. And I always knew that if I just do what I know how to do and trust that the Lord's going to help me get through this and do my technique, that I'd make it through. But if I went out there and decided to go, wah, that would have been a wrap. There would have been a spurt of blood, and I would have been, and then I'd have to pretend to fall out so they can stop the show. So I wait till the ambulance comes, and when it comes, just drop me off up in Harlem. So, right?
God.
Yeah.
Michael.
Yeah.
Thank you so much.
Sure. So grow with that.